Hey, so have you ever been tasked with documenting every single thing about your network, but you really didn't know where to start and you didn't want to like put everything like a Word document or something? You needed some sort of project or some sort of site that you could document where these switches are, what's connected to them, where it's connected, what access points you run, what virtual machines you have going on. Well, that's where a project like NetBox may come into play. You may know about that. And it's basically your single source of truth about your network if you take the time to actually like build it up, right? It's a huge software. Let me show you a little bit. So if we jump into this, we have a whole bunch of different things. We can keep track of the racks that we have. What's in those racks? If there's a network switch in them, what's connected to that switch, and if we have wireless, what's our access point? What is our wireless credentials? How do we have that set up? If there's VLANs, if there's VPNs, all the way down to like clients and endpoints and everything else. Devices, mobile devices, where are they connected? So there's so much you can put in. Dunder Mifflin. So there's so much you can put into this this software to really kind of help you track what what your environment looks like, especially if you work for a company and you just need to be able to keep a tabs on how everything is configured, so that in the event that something happens, you know exactly where to plug in certain devices. Switch goes bad or something. So one of my viewers requested that. I said basically, hey Ben, I want to use this software, but I want to run it through Portainer, and there's not really any good resources out there that tells me how to do that. And when I try to use it, it gives me issues. So I decided to spend some time diving into how to set that up for people like him and like myself that use Portainer a lot to manage their Docker environments. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm not going to so much jump into the software. There's so much about this project that I could cover, but I would spend the entire video going through it. And there's already a whole bunch of resources out there on YouTube that will teach you how to use this software and put the time into it. I'm going to really focus on making sure that you can run this in your Docker environment with Portainer. And if you want to, maybe you want to make it internet facing. Maybe you want to be able to access it from anywhere. And I'm going to show you how to do that too by routing all the traffic through Nginx Proxy Manager. If you don't have any of that stuff set up, it's not a big deal. I have a video where I walk you through configuring your own VPS or virtual private server. And we'll set up Docker, we'll set up Portainer, we'll set up Nginx Proxy Manager, all that stuff. We'll get that configured so that you can do the same things that we're doing in this video. So if you need that help, feel free to check the description down below. The link to that video, probably even a box somewhere magically appeared above my head that will take you there too. So for the rest of us that already has it set up, let's go ahead and jump into Portainer. And let me show you how I got this set up in mind. Super quick, super easy, and with very minimal effort, right? So if you pop on over to the NetBox community GitHub repository, you'll see a bunch of different ways to set up your NetBox. There's like the bare bones version, you're loading up all the different components and everything. But they also set up a NetBox Docker. And so when you go into that, there's a bunch of files here, and you could easily download this, clone it, and use your terminal to push that image out to your Docker server. But when you're looking at the Docker compose file here, this one is not so friendly with Portainer. That's okay. That's all right. We are going to make some changes, and I have already done those changes for you. I put them in our GitHub page under GitHub, Snack Time, YouTube, and NetBox. So if you want to just get straight to the point, the Docker compose and the environment variable file is right there for you to use and pretty much immediately drop it in. But I do want to kind of cover what the differences are, so you know what you're loading. So if there's any time in the future you need to make some changes, you know what you're looking at. I'm also going to show you what the configuration and installation looks like, so you can be prepared there too, so you won't get thrown when it comes to time to install. So let's do this. I'm going to copy this guy, and I'm just going to put him in a notepad, and I'm going to drag it over so that you guys can see the difference between mine and the one that comes on that page. All right, so here we go. I'm going to do my best. You should be able to read it here. That's not too bad. I'll make this one a little bit bigger. That's not too bad. And let's do this. Let's get my face out of the way. Get out of the way, Ben, so that I can use this real estate for this text file. All right, cool. All right, so on the right is the one that you will find in the NetBox Docker GitHub. And on the left is the one that I have crafted that is a little bit more friendly. So if you start at the top, we have a YAML anchor here, which is referenced down here. Problem is, Portainer is not a huge fan of anchors with YAML. So we kind of had to remove that. So I removed that one on here. Next up is the image that it's looking for. That's perfectly normal. We'll talk about this version tag here in a little while towards the end. But moving on, the depends on, it's the same. We're depending on Postgres, Redis, and also Redis cache. Where the changes come into really into play here is this environment file making reference to a env/netbox env, and Portainer is not going to know where that is. So what we did is we call it stack env. Portainer prefers it to be called stack env, and so when we load everything up at the bottom end of the software, it's going to look for that file and find, oh, stack env has all the stuff that I'm looking for. We're keeping the user, keeping the health check. We did add some ports so that you could access this locally. However, when we load up onto Portainer, we are going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager, so we're probably going to comment this out. But if you decided, hey, yeah, I want to run this locally, I don't want it to be internet facing, then leave it uncommented. And also, if you are not happy with port 8001, pick another one. Whatever you have, 8001 will forward to 8080 on the container side. So if you want to go with something different, that's all up to you. I did 8001 because port 8000 taken, so it was just like one off. All right, next up, a little different is the volume here. Instead of letting it just go into my user path or wherever it wants to put it right there, I decided to make it a mapped volume there. So I made a NetBox configuration, and that will be set up towards the bottom too. Moving down a little bit, we got our NetBox worker, and this is basically making reference and pointing Docker to the YAML anchor up here to essentially pull all the same stuff plus what's down there. We're not going to do that. We are going to recreate everything that is up here, down here, so that Portainer will work. So with that being said, we are going to be pulling the image. This is the same image that we're pulling up there, except this one's going to be the worker for us. env file, we changed that again, stack.env. And let's see here. We got our commands that we're running are the same. Health check is the same. And now we're just pulling those volumes, the same ones that it was going to get from that anchor. We're just going to go ahead and specify right there. Health check, same. Moving down to Portainer, not really much touched here other than the env file. I made that to stack. If you'll notice, when it comes to the env file here, this one's a Postgres env, and at the top it was a NetBox env. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's a Redis env. So there was different environment files, totally perfectly normal for deploying this with the terminal. But for Portainer, we just went ahead and just took all those env, the contents of all those env files, put them into one file, and then I uploaded it to Portainer, which we'll cover here in just a second. All right, so going on down the list, nothing much changed here. Very similar commands for Redis. Redis cache didn't change much there either, as well as the only thing we really changed is toward the bottom when I added the extra volume down here, the NetBox configuration. You remember you have to tell Portainer you want that volume created, otherwise it's going to give you an error. So that was pretty much it for this one. So let's do this. Let's copy this file. Let's jump over to Portainer and let's actually go through the installation. I'm going to go into stacks. I'm going to add new stack right behind my face and I'm going to type in NetBox. I'm going to paste this in here. So we got that all pasted. And now we need to add our env contents. So I'm going to click advanced mode right down here. And that's going to open up this text box so we'll be able to paste our env file. So let's do this. Let us go back to our SYNACK. I'm going to go back one folder. I'm going to go to my stack.env. I'm going to copy all this. And remember, we're going to lose all these comments as soon as we paste. So if you're wondering what they are, now is a good time to look, because when you paste them in Portainer, boom, they're stripped out. So nothing unnecessary there. There's a couple things we do want to change. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see. I'll go bloop. So we have our API token Pepper. Let's go ahead and change this. Even if you just make a couple of character changes, that's fine. Secret key, same with that. Let's see here. Now we have our database. We're establishing that connection. So we have our database password. I would encourage you to change this as well. Make sure that when you do change this, you copy and paste it over top of the Postgres password. So the database, I believe, is used with NetBox. Postgres username password is used within the Postgres container. I'm not going to really set up email. I don't really care about that. The password for Redis, I don't know if this is necessary or not, but I was running into some hiccups before I did this. So I'm going to copy the Redis password and I'm going to copy it over top of the Redis cache password. I don't really think it's super important, but you tell me if I'm wrong. Honestly, it's complicated. Even if they were the same password, it's not the end of the world. Redis cache SSL false, that's fine. We're going to be establishing any sort of SSL certs through Nginx Proxy Manager anyway. Not a big deal, and most of this communications can be done internally between container to container. GraphQL is enabled true webhooks and metrics enabled false. Skip user, super user is true. We'll set up that user a little bit later on. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. Doesn't ask us for a URL or anything, so we don't have to specify it here. Let's zoom out. And now let's just hit the big old deploy button and hit deploy. And we shouldn't run into any errors. This is a little bit of a bigger project, so it's probably going to take a little bit longer than it took me, simply because, well, I already have the images downloaded, so I cheated. Yours is probably going to take like 5 minutes or so, but I'm sure you can find something to occupy yourself. All right, so with this starting, let's see, if we go under here, we'll have these should be healthy pretty much almost immediately. The database may take a second to establish itself. This worker is going to most likely die out because it depends on the health of these other containers too, which this one is not going to be healthy for a little while. And I'm going to show you why, because I don't want you to think that you did something wrong. It takes a little bit of time for this particular container to spin up, unless you're working on some sort of awesome, like 24 core Xeon or something. This is going to take a little bit of time. And it's also, when it's first run, it's going to do a lot of database table creation, user creation, all this sort of fun database stuff that it has to get out of the way first off. And that is going to take some time. Probably I give it like 15 minutes, honestly. for it to get from point A to Z, just because I'm running on a slower VPS. I don't know about you. You may be running on a faster one. You may be running this locally. It may go quicker for you than me. But if it does go slow, I just want you to be prepared for that and to know, hey, you haven't done anything wrong. It's unhealthy. The worker's dying. What's that mean? Just means it needs to do some initial configuration. So as you can see right here, if we look a little closer, we have our database migrations taking place. And that is not any sort of migration. This is really just the establishing of the database. So we are going to let that run for like 10-15 minutes. And I am going to pop back in here in just a little bit when it is all done. Feel free to pause the video while yours is running. As you see, mine is running in the background. And yeah, I'll see you back here in just a second. So how's yours going? Mine's still going. I was watching a couple of YouTube videos and just thought I would check in and see how you guys were doing. But yeah, it's still trucking right here. And mine is, I don't know if we're close to being done, but it is still going. So again, have patience and I'll see you here in a second. All right, guys, we are making progress. We're now removing stale content types. Don't know how that's possible considering we've never even run this thing before, but I guess just in case. So we are almost done. Just to keep hanging in there just a little while longer. I know it's probably been closer to like 15-20 minutes for you, but we are getting to the finish line, I promise you. Okay, so we are almost done. It's building the search index, which is around like the last thing that's going to be doing. Next, it's going to be basically starting the application. So we can kind of do a little bit of other things while we're waiting on this. Let's go ahead and go to containers. And since we are going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager, let's add our network to our container to the NetBox network. So if we scroll down, let's click down here and you see where it says select network. Let's go ahead and select the NetBox default and click join network. That should add us to the NetBox network. There we go. Got an IP address and everything. All right, time to check up on the progress of our NetBox. Click on the logs, and it looks like we have some good times going on here. We are getting some checks here, which is good. We got our application going, also good. We are probably seeing this because of the health check happening within this container. So if we go back to containers, we see we're now healthy. Because remember our health check, if we go and we look back at our health check for this guy, the health check was crawling, localhost 8080 login. So we should be able to access the page now. I'm going to start up this worker here that couldn't start because his friend was busy, and he should be good to go too. All right, so if we do want to check out to see if ours is going, we do still have the port 8001 open. We haven't closed that yet. So I'm going to duplicate this tab and I'm going to go to 8001 at the top here. I'm also going to remove the S and HTTP. And there we go. We have our login page ready to go. So before we move on and we give this a fancy domain and a security certificate, we do need to add ourselves a user. So in order to do that, if you look back at the Docker page for NetBox, you'll scroll down all the way to the bottom here. And let's cover versions while we're at it. So definitely read this paragraph here about versions. This allows you to control at what speed you're upgrading to the latest version, right? So if you told me, hey, I always want to run like bleeding edge, latest and greatest, then you could change the version tag that we have just to latest. Otherwise, this allows you to specify kind of a range of builds that we want to use. So this one right now I think we're running, if we go back here and go to our stack and our NetBox, zoom in. So we have 4.4 then to 3.41. But we could, like I said, we could modify this and just type in latest, and then it would download the latest version. Or as new versions come out, if you want to give it some time to make sure that they are bug free, you can be a little bit more specific. And you can also specify your version here too. Just something to keep in mind. All right, so going back, no, don't want to save that. Let's see, let's go and look at this command. So this one's to create your first admin user, you're going to be running this command. You could run this from the command line, but since we've done everything else in Portainer, I'm going to show you how to do this in Portainer too. So we go to Portainer and we click on this little icon right here, this little one that says execute console. It looks like a little command prompt. When this comes up, we're just going to hit connect, and this will connect us into the containers Linux operating system. So we do ls, we'll see all the little files that have been deployed that are related to NetBox. And one of those things was the manage. So I'm going to do /manage, and I'm going to hit tab just to complete that. And then we typed in create super user. We hit enter. This is going to load configuration files, PYs, logging, blah, 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 blah. And then in a second here, it's going to ask us what we want our username to be. Once you've established your first username, all the other subsequent users could be established from inside the platform. This is just your very first one. So I guess they do this so you don't have to like get a random one or a default one or something. So give this just a second, and here we go, our username. I'm going to just do Ben. I'm going to give it my email address. I'm going to give it a password, and I'm going to give it a weak password because I want you to see this. This password is too short, must contain at least 12 characters. Do you want to do it anyway? Yeah, so you can hit yes, and it will go ahead and create that for us. Super user created. So if we go back to our website here and type in Ben password, then we wait for a second. Here we're already signed in, and you see we are running a little bit of a later older version. 4.49 is out. We're running 4.45. Not too bad, but. All right, so now that we've established connection to our site, let's start with moving this so that we can access it from wherever we are in the world. We're going to start by creating a subdomain. I'm going to be using Namecheap. You can use whatever DNS server or a registrar that you want to. We're just going to be creating an A record. So I'm going to create my A record, and I'm just going to call this net. And then I'm going to give it the IP address of the external IP address of my server. And I'm going to save that. And that establishes my A record. So my domain will be net.synhow.com. And let's go back, just go over to our Nginx proxy manager and let's define a new host. I'm going to go add, and I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit. All right, so I'm going to do net.synhow.com, hit the enter key. Now it wants to know where I want to send this traffic. That's a good question. Let's pop on back over to Portainer. Let's go to our container list, and I want to send it to this container. I'm going to copy that name, and don't want to use IP addresses. IP addresses change. Paste that in here. Now we want to make sure that we don't have any white spaces, either in front of or behind our host name. So if you do, it's going to give you some problems, going to yell at you, or it's just not going to forward the traffic to the right place at all. So, and that's even worse. All right, so now we need to know where the traffic is supposed to be going to. What port are we going to be forwarding this to? To find that out, let's go back to mine. Remember, we were forwarding traffic from 8001 to 8080, and Nginx proxy manager is wondering what port the container is listing on. So we are going to be telling it 8080 because that is the the internal port that it's listing. This will just be the external. And honestly, we're going to comment that out in a second so that everybody has to go through Nginx Proxy Manager. I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to hit common exploits. I'm going to block them. I'm going to enable WebSocket support, and I'm going to hit save. Now that's there. I do want to add a little bit of security to my newly created website. I'm going to drop this down and hit edit. And I'm going to click on SSL. I'm going to create a new SSL. I'm going to force it, and I'm going to hit save. So if we did everything right, this box will go away here in a second. If we do get an error message, best thing to do, just check to make sure you typed in your subdomain correctly, and make sure you've given DNS enough time to propagate. So that worked. We got our certificate. Let's see if we're able to get to our site. So if we click on this URL here, here we go. There's our site, net.synhow.com. All right. Now that we have that set up, we do want to remove this port from being able to be accessed. We don't want someone to bypass our security certificate or Nginx Proxy Manager, and having this port open will do exactly that. So we're going to go to stacks. We're going to go to NetBox. We're going to edit. And we're going to come down into here, and we're going to comment this out with a couple of hashtags. That makes that no longer alive. We're going to update the stack and then update. So this is going to force all of our containers to do a good old reboot. So this one is starting right now. This container right here does take some time to start up, especially if you're not on a super awesome beefy machine. So when you're looking at this right here, just know that it's not fully booted yet. With that being said, if you do try to access the page while it's still booting, not that one, this one right here, you're going to get an error message. It's just because it's not all the way there. But when it is, you can hit refresh, and you can always check the logs here. You'll be able to tell when this thing is fully booted up, just because it does take a little bit of time. And while we're waiting on this, if you're finding that your worker dies out or cancels out before this can finish booting up, you can always adjust the values a little bit under the health check, I believe. Let's see, we go under editor, or you can also, there's nothing preventing you really from saying, you know what, I don't want this worker to depend on NetBox. Yeah, you could always just remove that. But worst case, if you're not rebooting all that often, hopefully this will start up fast enough for this one not to care. Looks like it does. Yeah, this would boot up pretty quickly. I'm just checking the logs. Looks like the application started. We're almost there. So we should be okay. Let's cross our fingers. When this goes from starting to healthy, we'll know that we are good to go, because this is also doing a little internal check to make sure that the web page is up, and that is what determines whether it is healthy or unhealthy. And let's see, and it's checking localhost, so it doesn't really matter. All right, let's check our web page and hit refresh. There we go. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much sums it up. That's how you get NetBox opening and running with Portainer. Pretty easy, right? Hopefully you found this video informative and helpful, and hopefully you really get some use out of NetBox. It looks pretty amazing from what I've done and played around with it. It's definitely a big one. So have a little bit of patience when you're starting it up, and hopefully you enjoy it. I'll talk to you on the next video. You guys take care. Bye-bye.